So last year before Christmas I made a Christmas decoration, so I had an MDF Merry Christmas sign that I added some LEDs to, and you can see that video in my back catalogue, and I'll link it here. This year I thought I'd make one of these commercial kits, and this one looked quite nice. I ordered this a few weeks ago. It's just arrived. I think it took about 4 weeks to arrive. This was about £5, a little under £5, and this came from an eBay seller called moduleme. So I'll put a link to it if you want this one. I have seen the same kit from several vendors, and one of them that I saw recently is now selling this cheaper, so you can buy it for about £3. And I guess as we get closer to Christmas, the prices get lower and lower, because actually now the chance of getting this kit before Christmas is fairly limited for some of these suppliers. But let's look at this. So it has quite a nice PCB base here, and then there's these two bits of Christmas tree to connect into it. So we slide those bits together. It should interlock. It's a little bit of a tight fit. So I might start mounting the components before I try and put that into place. That seems very tight. So once you got the actual Christmas tree in place, it then plugs into the base, and I guess you can't really pin that, I don't think. It's got some mounting holes there, but so I guess that's just supported on the strength of the solder at the bottom. So we'll have to see if that's adequate or if it needs some araldite. So there we go. So that's the main part of the tree, and then, as I understand it, the battery box goes on the bottom here. So the battery box is like a counterweight, and the tree sits on top of the battery box. In terms of electronics, it's not very complicated. We've got a whole load of LEDs, which I think are different colours, but we can test that in a minute. And then we've got a few active components. There's, I don't know, about 6 transistors in there. Let's have a look what that says. So that's a S9014. I can't remember whether that's NPN or PNP. Again, I might get the component tester out. We could see what that looks like. Okay, here's the component tester. Let's have a look. Right, so we'll plug that into the ZIF socket. And that's an NPN, so they're NPN transistors. I believe they're all the same, but I can check that later. So we've got a few, I guess, current limiting resistors. That's 33 ohms, so that seems like the sort of value that you'd want for current limiting in a 3-volt circuit. These ones are 10k, I think. And we could look at some of these LEDs. So they're color changing. So that's alternating between Oh, it's got all colours, so green, red and blue, and it's doing various flashes and changes of colour, so that's quite nice. I wasn't really expecting that. Yeah, so they're sort of self-animated LEDs. Right, so I think I might start soldering things into place, and I don't know, that's really tight. I might have to get a file out, I think, and widen one of those holes. But let's set up and start doing some soldering. Right, that was a really exceptionally tight fit, but I've managed to get it really almost all the way in now. So I couldn't get it in place at first, but I put some light oil on it, and I basically used excessive force to push it down into place. So I think that's going to be, it's not quite level at the bottom now, but I think that will probably do. It's only a millimetre or so out, I think, so I'm going to go with that. So I'm just looking at what components I've got. So I think there's 36 holes for LEDs, and if I think I counted 37, so they might have given me a spare LED there. So I've got enough LEDs. I've got the 6 9014 NPN transistors. I've got 6 22 microfarad electrolytic capacitors. There's an on-off switch. There's a jack, which is to match with this cable. I might not fit that in for this particular project because I'm going to run it off the battery. So the battery box is for 3 AA, so it's 4.5 volts rather than 3 volts, as I said. So we got some 10k resistors here. 7 10ks, is it? Looks like. And the 10ks are marked on the circuit board, so those should be easy to fit. But this is going to be the tricky part here, because there are 3 different values of resistor here, so 3 2s, and I'm not exactly sure where those fit. So I'll see if I can. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'll solder in all the 10Ks since it's clear where those go, and then we'll figure out from there what to do with the others. So I just installed all the 10Ks. So I've just seen on the page that I bought this from, there's a link to a video which is all in Chinese, and unfortunately it's of very poor quality, so you can't actually tell the value of the resistors from looking at the video, so it's not much help. However, on AliExpress, on the AliExpress page, they've got a similar kit to this. Might be the same kit, I think, and that has a couple of decent photos on it, so I think I might be able to work out where some of the resistors go by looking at the colour bands there. But let's get the 10Ks in place, and then we can figure out the rest. I mean, it seems odd to me that this kit doesn't have a component listing or a schematic, so some of it you have to just figure out for yourself. The capacitors are all the same value, so those will be easy. And of course the LEDs, all you need to do is make sure you've got them the right way around. Right, so I think that might be it for the 10Ks. So I've got R7, R6, R4, R2. I think that 10K might be a spare. Right, so I've got two R2s there. On picture I can't actually tell which values those are, but so this one here, R4, looks like it might be this 1.8K. I don't know, it's very hard to tell. But anyway, let's start soldering. Today I'm going to use this Lidl handheld soldering iron, sort of battery powered soldering iron. I need to wait for the lead to go green. There we are. The tip's a bit messy on this. Okay. I think that hole could need a bit more solder. Okay, well that's the 10Ks in place anyway. I've been trying to figure out something about these resistor values, and so I did a sketch from the circuit board, reverse engineering, and you can see the transistor here, emitter base collector. So you've got the 10K resistor that we've already put in the circuit board going into the base. That's the base bias resistor, and then the collector, the output, goes to both the capacitor, so I think that goes on to the next stage, the next transistor. But this is the interesting bit here. So these are the kind of unknown values, and they're basically connected to all of the LEDs. So that's the current limiting resistor for the LEDs. Now there's 3 different values, which is odd, for the 6 different stages. I don't know why the values are different. Perhaps in the past the kit had separate red, green and yellow LEDs which need slightly different currents. But anyway, I did a bit of experimentation. So we've got some of the LEDs in here, and so if I connect this up, so I'm connecting this up to 3.5 volts, so allowing for a volt to be dropped across the transistor, the collector to emitter. So if I show you what it looks like through this 1K resistor, so that's okay. I mean, the red is a bit dim, and also the blue is very dim with 1K. So I thought I would try with a slightly smaller value, 470 ohms, and I think that gives better lighting. So the red is brighter now, and the blue is all right. It's not quite as bright as the others, but it's all right. So what I've decided to do is just use the 470 ohm everywhere, so I've got quite a few 470 ohms in my box of resistors. So I'm going to put all of the components I got with the kit to one side, and instead I'm going to put in these 470, or some of them are 500, but that won't make much difference. So I'm going to put those in all of these other slots, so R2, R4, R6, and there's also the one, where is it? Oh, R7. So R7 is basically driving the LED at the very top, but again I'll use a 500 ohm resistor in there. So let me put all those in place and solder them in. It's not quite sitting in its hole. Push that right in while I'm heating up the joint to make it sit flat. That's just to make it look nice, really. And this one's sitting out of its hole, so we'll do the same here. Okay, I think that's done it. Oh, what's happened there? This one's just sheared off. Right, better go and find another one for that. Right, there we go. Here's another 470. Oh yeah, down the bottom here. The hole's blocked up with solder, but I'm gonna, if I heat it up and just try and push that through. I need more than two hands for this, really. It's the trouble with soldering. Sometimes it's difficult being able to hold on to everything that you need to. So that's all the resistors in place. I think what I might do next is put the capacitors in. The capacitors are quite close to the edge and could be tricky to put in, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to use the blue tack method to keep the components in place. Now you see that's quite tricky because you've got one capacitor that's blocking the leads of the other. I think I can get in there though. Yeah, that seemed to work. Actually, maybe I should have put those lying down because you see there's going to be another problem there. Yeah, perhaps they're intended to be laid down. Should have checked the photo, I guess. Anyway, let's bend the legs of that one. Try and get these both in at the same time. Might be a bit ambitious. Perhaps if I solder one leg of each in this case, then I can make sure they're in the right position before I commit. Okay, so fold those nice and flat. Get them in the right position and then do the other leg. be a bit flatter on the board, I think. That one. It's nitpicking really. There's just a couple more to do over here now, so you do that same thing again. I'll just bend the legs and make them flat on the board. Make sure that's not bridged. That looks alright. So the next thing, I think I'll probably do the transistors. So again, they're tucked in quite tightly in there. I want to get those in before I start doing the LEDs. Well, that's a bit crap having that standing up like that, isn't it? Oh well. Okay, so the transistors, the shape of the transistor is marked out on the silk screen, so it's difficult to get wrong. And hopefully, because these have got kind of slightly splayed legs, they'll actually hold in place once I push them in. Make it a bit easier to solder. I can't put them all in at once because they're all kind of in the same place on the boards. Perhaps, you know, perhaps it's a good idea to actually assemble the boards separately before kind of, you know, plugging those two together and making it into the cross shape. But there we go. We learn by doing. Right, so I should be able to get that one in as well. Right, now if I trim the leads I should be able to get in close enough to put the remaining transistors in. Right, so all the transistors are in place. That one looks a bit wonky, but the soldering's alright, I think. So the final set of components to put in are obviously the LEDs, which all go in the same orientation, I think. There's like a little arrow pointing up towards the top of the tree, so we're going to need to put the longer pin in the bottom hole because that's the positive. But I want the LEDs to kind of stick out sideways really, so I might try and bend the leads so that they stick out horizontally like that. So they need to be a couple of millimeters the bend needs to be a couple of millimeters apart. So let me look at how to do that. So there, that's not quite right. I've got obviously need to bend it a little bit further up on the top because I want it to be more horizontal than that. I guess it doesn't matter that much, I suppose. But that seems to be about the right length, I think. Okay, so that's a couple of LEDs installed. What we could do before going any further and fitting all of the LEDs, we should probably give it a quick test. So let's set the power supply to 4.5 volts. And we can connect up using the plus and minus on the base of the tree here. I'm not sure that's drawing any current at the moment. Oh, maybe because the boards aren't interconnected. There we are. Okay. Yeah, so when you solder the base down, then the positives on the two sides get interconnected and the negatives the same. So there we go, that looks good. That looks like it's going to work, doesn't it? So I just need to continue to plug in all of the LEDs now. So I've done the ones, I've pre-bent the ones that are going to go in these right hand ones, and then I'm going to have to bend some LEDs to the left as well for the two other sides. So I'll just get soldering. So I'm just using this technique of soldering in one leg, just that I can make sure that these are all in the right position before I completely solder them in. I'll just kind of twist them. So there's a couple that are too high here, I need to drop down. Okay, so that side works. So I'll just continue on. I've got all the LEDs in place now on all the sides, so there's just a couple of extra things to do now. So there's a LED that needs to go at the top of the tree here through those holes, and also there are these little sections in the between the two PCBs here. There's one there, there's one further down, and I think the intention there is to fill those with solder in order to give the structure more strength. I might try and poke a little bit of wire in there and solder that just to keep it all together, and then we'll be ready to mount it on the base. Alright, so I've put a solder bridge on those little joining sections there to give it some strength, and on the bottom there also, and we can give it another test and see if that top LED is running. There we are, so the top LED is connected to one of the sides also. Alright, so I've got spare LED, so they did give us a spare. Now this, so we need a switch on the base, the on-off switch on the base, and these screws are, I think, to hold on the battery box. Yeah, so it lines up with those holes there. Right, so get the positives lined up over here. These are pluses here. And get some solder in there. Okay, so finally it's all assembled, and if I put the power button on, you can see all the LEDs are flashing now. So just one thing I found, when I'd soldered this onto the base, there was still no connectivity between the minus here and the actual tree itself, so I guess maybe either a track is broken in this bottom PCB, or I haven't got sufficient amounts of solder going down through the hole there. But anyway, I've put a bodge wire on the negative side now, and so that works. So there we are, completed Christmas decoration.